Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a documentary that exposes a decades-long ideological battle brewing inside France. It's a high-stakes conflict that pits the secular republic against a powerful religious movement, and it's pushing the entire nation to a breaking point.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The whole story really kicks off when a government report drops like a bombshell on the French political scene. For the very first time, the state publicly named its adversary, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the accusation, a slow, methodical infiltration of society.
So back in the early 2020s, the French Ministry of the Interior puts out this document, and it wasn't just another report that creates a few headlines. No, this thing lit a fire, completely redefining the national conversation for years to come.
Experts called it a granite block thrown right into the middle of the national debate. You see, the intelligence services had known about this stuff for years, but making it public was totally different. It forced everyone in France to confront a really difficult question. What is the role of political Islam in a secular republic?
But you gotta ask, right? How does an ideology like this actually take hold? To really understand the strategy, you first have to understand the people. And the documentary zeroes in on one man who didn't just study the movement, he actually rose up through its ranks.
Yeah, this is the story of Farid Abdelkarim. For a full 15 years, he was a deeply committed member of the French Islamist movement. His journey, from being a young recruit to becoming a leader, gives us this incredible, unparalleled look at how it all operates and why it's so persuasive. For Farid, it all started with a personal tragedy that left him feeling completely adrift. You have to remember, back in the 1980s, there weren't many mosques or halal shops in his community. So when he went looking for a place to belong, the only group organized enough to offer that was, secretly, a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. They saw a void, and they stepped right in to fill it.
And this was the core message, and it was brilliant. France doesn't want you, but don't worry, Islam opens its arms to you. I mean, for young people facing racism, seeing opportunities blocked, that promise was like a magnet. It was offering more than just religion. It was offering an identity, a purpose, and a community when they felt like they had none.
And here's the thing. Farid's recruitment wasn't just some random event. It was actually part of a sophisticated, very long-term strategy of infiltration that the French government was now absolutely determined to expose.
This slide reveals a really crucial distinction. For years, France was worried about what it called separatism. You know, groups creating these isolated communities outside of the mainstream. But this report flagged a much more subtle threat: infiltration. The goal here wasn't to break away from French society, but to get inside its core institutions and literally change it from the inside out.
And this was not just about building mosques. The strategy was to create a totally self-sustaining ecosystem. By controlling schools, charities, and businesses, the network gained cultural power and, this is critical, its own money. It didn't need foreign funding anymore. It was becoming a French-grown, self-financing operation.
And according to French authorities, these local projects were never the end game. They were just seen as stepping stones for a much, much larger ambition, one laid out by the Brotherhood's founder, a global caliphate.
So, for decades, the French state just kind of watched this network grow. Then, everything changed. A wave of horrific terror attacks forced the government to stop watching and start fighting back hard.
The brutal murder of the teacher Samuel Paty, that, along with other attacks, was a massive wake-up call. The government suddenly realized it wasn't enough to just fight terrorists with guns. It had to wage a war on the ideology that was creating them in the first place.
So the response came in 3 very clear steps. First, the president gets up there and publicly names the threat. Next, the government passes a powerful new legal weapon, the anti-separatism law. This gave the state the power to shut down pretty much any group it believed was undermining the republic's core values.
And the government did not hesitate to use its new powers. It moved to dissolve Bara City, a huge and very popular charity, and that sent a shockwave through the community. The message was unmistakable. A charitable front would no longer protect organizations accused of spreading a dangerous ideology. The rules of the game had completely changed. But you can't defeat an idea just by passing a law, right? So while the state was winning all these legal battles, the war for hearts and minds was just getting started. The documentary argues this conflict is far, far from resolved.
Farid's final position just cuts right to the heart of this entire conflict. He says, "I am leaving the Muslim Brotherhood organization. I am not leaving Islam." And for millions of French Muslims, that is the central struggle. How do you separate your faith from a political movement that has tried to hijack it?
This raises a really dangerous question. When the state shuts down a community center, what fills that void? The fear is that young people who are still searching for answers will just move from real-world communities to the digital world, where social media algorithms can push them towards even more radical content.
And this leads to a pretty provocative conclusion from some experts, that the real battle isn't France versus its Muslims. No, it's a battle within the French Muslim community, a fight for the soul of their religion, where the mainstream majority is struggling to stop a radical minority from defining Islam for everyone else.
And so, this is where we're left. The reports are written, the laws are passed, the battle lines have been drawn. But the documentary's final, haunting question is this. Now that the state has torn down these structures, what will it build in their place? Because without an alternative, that void will be filled by something else. And that is the question that France has yet to answer.